Moses is one of the most famous figures in the Bible. He was a man chosen by God to lead the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt and into freedom. His story is powerful and full of courage, but it wasn't easy. He had to stand up to the mighty Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt, and demand that he let the Israelites go. Moses' actions didn't just change the lives of the Israelites, they changed the course of history. Moses' journey didn't start with him being a great leader. In fact, his beginnings were quite humble. He was born to Hebrew parents during a time when the Israelites were enslaved in Egypt. Pharaoh, fearing that the Israelites were growing too powerful, ordered that all Hebrew baby boys be killed. To protect Moses, his mother placed him in a basket and set him afloat on the Nile River. Pharaoh's daughter found him and raised him as her own. Even though Moses was raised in the palace, he never forgot his roots. As he grew older, he saw the harsh treatment of the Israelites by the Egyptians. One day, Moses saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave. In anger, Moses killed the Egyptian and fled into the desert to escape Pharaoh's wrath. While in the desert, Moses lived as a shepherd for many years, but God had a plan for him. One day, while Moses was tending sheep, he saw a bush that was on fire but wasn't burning up. When he approached the bush, God spoke to him from the flames, calling Moses to return to Egypt and lead the Israelites to freedom. Moses wasn't eager to return to Egypt. He had a lot of doubts about whether he could do what God was asking. He even questioned why God had chosen him. But God reassured Moses and gave him the power to perform miracles to show Pharaoh that he was sent by God. God told Moses to go to Pharaoh and demand, "Let my people go." But Pharaoh was stubborn. He refused, saying, "Who is the Lord that I should listen to him?" Pharaoh's heart was hard, and he didn't want to lose his free labor force. This began a long and difficult battle between Moses and Pharaoh. Moses warned Pharaoh of the consequences if he didn't let the Israelites go, but Pharaoh ignored him. This led to the plagues, which were signs of God's power. God sent 10 plagues to Egypt, each one more devastating than the last. The plagues were a direct challenge to Pharaoh's authority and to the Egyptian gods he worshipped. The first plague turned the Nile River into blood, making the water undrinkable. Then came frogs, lice, flies, and diseases that affected both people and animals. Pharaoh still refused to listen. The plagues continued to worsen. Hail and locusts destroyed crops. Darkness covered the land for 3 days. Finally, the 10th plague was the most devastating. God sent the angel of death to kill every firstborn son in Egypt, from Pharaoh's son to the son of the lowest servant. The Israelites were spared because they had followed God's instructions to mark their doors with the blood of a lamb. This became known as the first Passover. It was only after this final plague that Pharaoh finally agreed to let the Israelites go. But even then, his heart was hard, and he changed his mind once again. Pharaoh sent his army to chase the Israelites as they left Egypt, but God parted the Red Sea, allowing the Israelites to escape and drowning Pharaoh's army when they tried to follow. Moses' leadership was tested every step of the way. After escaping Egypt, the Israelites faced many challenges. They wandered in the desert for 40 years, during which time Moses had to guide them, settle disputes, and keep their faith in God. Many times the Israelites complained about their situation and even wanted to return to Egypt, where they had food and shelter, even though they were slaves. Moses continued to lead them, even when they were difficult and ungrateful. He spoke with God regularly, receiving guidance and instructions for the people. Through it all, Moses remained committed to the mission God had given him, even when it meant personal struggle and hardship. One of Moses' most important roles was to bring the Israelites the 10 Commandments, which were laws given by God to guide the people. Moses went up Mount Sinai, where he spent 40 days and nights in the presence of God. During this time, God gave him the tablets with the 10 Commandments, which were to serve as a moral and spiritual foundation for the Israelites. The 10 Commandments include principles like honoring God, not killing, and respecting others. These laws helped shape the Israelites' relationship with God and with each other. They continue to be a moral standard for people around the world today. Moses' confrontation with Pharaoh didn't just change the fate of the Israelites, it changed history forever. By refusing to bow to Pharaoh, Moses demonstrated that God's power was greater than any earthly king. He proved that God could free his people no matter how powerful their oppressors were. Moses' courage in standing up to Pharaoh also sent a message about the importance of justice and freedom. The Israelites were able to escape slavery and start a new life, and their story became a symbol of hope for generations to come. It reminded people that even in the darkest times there is a God who is capable of delivering his people. The story of Moses also shows the importance of leadership. Moses wasn't a perfect leader, but he was faithful to God's calling. He faced many obstacles, but he kept going because he trusted in God's plan. His story teaches us that even when things seem impossible, God can use ordinary people to accomplish extraordinary things. Moses' legacy is not just about the freedom of the Israelites. It's also about faith, obedience, and the power of God's word. The story of Moses has inspired countless people throughout history to stand up for what is right, even when it's difficult. Moses is a key figure in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. In Judaism, he is regarded as the greatest prophet, and his leadership is seen as a model for all future leaders. In Christianity, Moses is seen as a precursor to Jesus Christ, who also came to deliver his people from sin. In Islam, Moses, known as Musa, is honored as a prophet who delivered God's message to the people of Israel. Moses' actions defied Pharaoh and changed the course of history. His faith in God, even in the face of powerful opposition, continues to inspire people today. Moses may have been just one man, but through his obedience to God, he changed the world forever.